Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu rasulillah. So we mentioned a number of matters last lesson, and of the things that is also mentioned, it's a few more details regarding the things that break one's fast and the likes. Okay, so we mentioned last lesson. What am I doing? We mentioned last lesson when one starts fast, when does a person have to start fasting and the likes? The types of fasting are how many types? How many types of siyam are there? Two. And they are? No. Siyam al-wajib or siyam al-nafil. So the obligatory fasting and the fasting that is voluntary. Okay. Examples of obligatory fasting. Is Ramadan, al-kaffarat, i.e. the expiations of oaths and other sins and the likes. For example, if a person says to the wife, "You're like my mother," idhar, then what do they have to do? They fast 2 consecutive months. Now, if a person said to their wife, "You're like my mother," I means I have no need for you. You're like my mother to me, you're haram for me, basically. That statement, for a man to say it to their wife, they have to fast 2 consecutive months before they're allowed to have marital relations and the likes. That's of the times when you have to expiate with fasting. Or when you break an oath. When you break an oath, you fast. But that's the last option. The first is feeding 10 people, clothing 10 people, and then freeing a slave. And then if you can't do any of those, then you go to fasting the 3 days. It's not a person says, "Oh, I'm going to fast 3 days first." It's not. It goes in order of that. Then you have an-nudur. An-nudur, which we obviously studied of recent in Kitab al-Tawheed, is when a person takes oath that they're going to fast. For example, if I pass my exams, I'm going to fast 10 days. If a person said that, and it's not encouraged to say that, but if a person did say that, by Allah, if I pass my exam, I'm going to fast 10 days, then you have to fast 10 days. Because you have given an oath. Okay, and those oaths are obligatory to fulfill. Those oaths are obligatory to fulfill. The oath to do an act of worship. Okay, so those are the types of fasting that is obligation. Other than those 3 mentioned, then they'll be considered to be voluntary. We spoke about there's 2 pillars of siyam, 2 pillars that siyam is built upon, and that is 1, an-niyyah, which is intention. Okay, the second pillar is al-imsak an al-mufattirat, staying away from that which will break one's fast. As for intention, then the intention, you have 2 types. Intention of that which is obligatory fast, and intention with something that is voluntary. When we said the hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, actions are by their intentions. One thing that we learn is النية تميز العبادات بعضها عن بعض. Intention distinguishes acts of worship from others. For example, fasting, as we said, we have types that are what? Obligatory, and types that are voluntary. What differs between them? Intention. So if my intention is to fast Ramadan, I'm fasting an obligatory fast. But if my intention is to fast Monday and Thursday, then my intention is to do something that is voluntary. When it comes to obligatory fast, the intention is to be made before Fajr of that day. Before Fajr of that day. So, in saying this, if I'm fasting the month of Ramadan, do I have to make intention every day before Fajr? Some say you do, but what seems to be more correct is it's sufficient to make one intention for the whole month of Ramadan from the first day of Ramadan before Fajr. Unless something happens that breaks my fast, I'm not able to fast because of an illness that I'm not able to fast, or the woman's cycle and the likes. When I'm able to fast again, then I make a new intention to fast the remaining days. If that intention has been broken because of a reason that I'm not able to continue fasting. Otherwise, sufficient one intention for the whole month. But that first intention is to be done from before Fajr of the first day of Siyam, the first day of fasting. As for the voluntary fast, as we mentioned, you can make intention any part of the day, as long as you haven't eaten or drinking, done anything that will break your fast. However, your reward is based on from the time you made intention to fast. And we learn this from the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ when he went to Aisha anha and there was no food. So he said, Inni rajulun sa'im. He said, I am a fasting man. Today I'll fast because there was no food. So he fasted instead to gain reward. So from the moment he made intention to fast, then he would be rewarded from that time. And that is what is allowed for us also when it comes to voluntary fasting. As for the obligatory fast, then no, it must be made, the intention must be made before Fajr. Also, intention is made where? In the heart. Intention is the action of the heart. So you don't say, we just found out now that tomorrow is Ramadan, we've ended Sha'ban, so as of now I'm going to fast, I'm going to stay away from everything that breaks my fast from Fajr as-Sadiq, the true Fajr, until the sun sets. You don't do that. You don't say it. Intention is never to be pronounced. Intention is within the heart. Just like when you come for Salah, you don't say, okay, right now I'm going to pray Dhuhr, and Dhuhr Salah is 4 raka'at. It starts with Allahu Akbar, it ends in Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You don't say this at all.
Do you need to consciously make your intention, like you know you're making your intention, or do you just like want to fast the next day? Does that make sense?
That is you consciously doing it. So it's basically the same thing, like that consciousness of that intention within the heart. So you don't say it though, you don't pronounce it with your mouth. You don't be like, no one's there say, Ya Allah, tomorrow I'm going to fast. That's my intention. La. You make that in your heart.
So, for example, making wudu, that would be you making the intention to pray.
Yes. Within that process, like I'm making the intention to purify myself in order to pray. Now. Now, when it comes to fasting, there are 6 conditions for fasting. 6 conditions. The first of those conditions is al-Islam. The person is to be Muslim. Okay. Okay, the first condition is that a person is to be Muslim. The second condition is al-aql. They have to be of sound mind. And they can't be majnoon, insane, or of the things that's mentioned, discussed, if a person intended to fast and then they were afflicted with insanity, they lost their mind before Fajr until sunset, that doesn't count for them as fasting. Because رفع عن القلم عن الثلاث, the pen is lifted from 3. So there's no siyam for the majnoon anyway. The one who's lost their mental faculties, because they'd be insane, there's no fasting upon them anyway. The second is al-mughma alayh, the one who has fainted, lost consciousness. They say the same thing. إذا نوى المسلم الصيام فأغمي عليه من قبل طلوع الفجر إلى غروب الشمس فهو لم يصم هذا اليوم. نعم. If a person lost consciousness, they went in a state of unconsciousness, and this was before Fajr until sunset, until Maghrib, then they said that day was not considered to be counted as a day of fasting for them, because that ighma, that loss of consciousness, was continuous for the whole time. Also was mentioned if a person lost consciousness for a day and a night or a number of days and they were completely unconscious, like in some form of a coma or the likes, they lost consciousness for a number of days, لم يجب عليه قضاؤه, it's not obligatory for them to make it up. And they say لأنه غير مكلف في وقت الصيام, because he's not burdened, responsible at the time of fasting, because he's similar to the one who is majnoon, who has lost their mental rational. Also, you have those who say, Imam Abu Hanifa said that if a person had intended siyam at night and then lost consciousness before Fajr, and they didn't gain consciousness until Maghrib time, that their fast is still correct. Because he said their ruling is the same as one who was sleeping. But they mention there is a difference. There's 2 differences between the one who has lost consciousness and the one who is sleeping. The one who is sleeping, they mention, إذا نبه تنبه. If someone like tries to wake them up and stuff, they'll wake up. Even if they go back to sleep, they'll still wake up, kind of thing. Unlike the one who has lost consciousness, no matter what you do, they will never wake up. So they're just like the person who's majnoon. Also, النوم لذة وراحة ونعمة. Yani, sleep, it comes with pleasure, it's rest, it's comfort. As for loss of consciousness, this is a defect, an illness. It's not something that is desirable. Okay, no one's happy to faint and lose consciousness. It comes with hardship. Usually there's an aspect of illness related to it, unlike sleep. Okay, so that's the main differences between the 2. So they mentioned that he is more like, more comparable to the one who is majnoon than he is to the one who is sleeping. Okay. They said, however, as for the one who made intention to fast, but then during the day they lost consciousness, or they regained consciousness during the day also, and from the night before, from before Fajr, they had intended to fast, then their fast is correct. Their fast is correct, as long as they don't do anything to break their fast. And they mentioned whether that was the regaining of consciousness within the beginning of the day, the middle of the day, or the last part of the day, as long as it's before the time of ghurub al-shams, before breaking the fast, then yeah. No. What's mentioned regarding the one who's sleeping? As for the one who is sleeping, من نوى الصيام ليلة من ليالي Ramadan. As for the one who intended to fast from the nights of Ramadan, ثم نام من قبل طلوع الفجر إلى غروب الشمس صح صيامه وهذا مجمع عليه. It says ijma', it is consensus among the scholars. There's no difference of opinion in this. If a person intended to fast for the night, but then they slept from before Fajr until after Maghrib, or until Maghrib time, their fast is correct. And they say because لا يزول العقل, the sound mind, the intellect, the sound mind is not gone. وإذا نبه انتبه, and if they're alerted, they'll react to it. They'll become alert. If they're awoken, they'll wake up, kind of thing, like this. Also, they mention if a person slept a number of days consistently and had made intention before these days he slept that he would fast those days, then his fast is also correct. Their fast is also correct. So that was in relation to al-aql. We mentioned al-aql regarding one who is sound-minded. Okay. As for the third condition is al-bulugh, which is having reached the age of puberty. The cut-off age is 15. If none of the signs of puberty have been acknowledged or manifested, for example, a wet dream, menstrual cycle, any pubic hair, these are all the signs of puberty. If none of those signs become apparent, then by the age of 15. If none of those signs have manifested, then as soon as they're the age of 15, they're considered to be baligh. The fourth, so also as mentioned, if they're not of the age of puberty, then they are encouraged to fast, and the one who is in the charge of them, and their guardian, has that duty of whether they encourage them to fast or not. No. The fourth condition is al-istitan. فلا يجب الصيام على المسافر. The person has to be resident. It's not an obligation upon the one who's a traveler to fast. If you're considered to be traveling, a traveler at that time, then you're not obligated to fast. لك أو لك الخيار. You have choice. As for the one who's resident, then it's obligatory upon them to fast. The fifth condition, as-sihha, getting good health. You not be afflicted in your health regarding fasting. As-sihha. No. Which is health. Excellent. Number 6. Yeah, no problem. Al-khalwu min al-hayd wal-nifas. Also the 6 one's more specific to women, that she's not on either menstrual cycle or postnatal bleeding. So those are the conditions for obligation of fasting. Now when it comes to the sick person, because we said one of the conditions is sihha, health, yeah? So when it comes to the sick person in Ramadan, there are types of sickness that a person is permitted to break their fast for. Okay, so the sick person, it mentions that there's 4 types of people regarding those who are sick that are permitted to break their fast. Okay, 4 types of people who are considered to be marid, sick, that are allowed to break their fast. And that's because when Allah mentions شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصمه ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر. The general mentioning of this ayah where it mentions whoever witnesses the month of Ramadan, and let them fast it. However, if you are sick or traveling, then you make it up from days after. From latter days, you make it up, the days that you have missed. So see, that's the general permissibility of the one who's sick can break their fast. But now we have to understand what types of sickness permit you to be considered to be of that level to break your fast. If a person's had a cold, then no, you can't just break your fast. As soon as you wake up, I've got a headache, it's too much. There's types of sickness. The first type, الصنف الأول المريض الذي يزيد الصيام في مرضه أو يخشى من ذلك. For example, the one who is sick, that we fear fasting will increase their sickness. Either fasting will increase their sickness, or that is feared to happen. Either fasting will be a cause of the sickness getting worse, increasing it, or we fear that will be a possibility. That's the first type of person. First type of people. I said, هذا مجمع عليه. There's no difference among this. This is something agreed upon by the consensus. They also say لا يجوز للمسلم أن يصوم وهو يغلب على ظنه أن الصيام يضره فإن فعل آثم وهذا مجمع عليه. It mentions it's not permissible for a Muslim to fast if they are more sure that fasting will cause them harm. Fasting will be harmful to them, and if they do it, then they are sinful, and that is agreed upon. هذا مجمع عليه. It's also something that is agreed upon. As for the one who, if they are sick and they fast, يتضرر إذا صام ضررا غير بالغ. أي, if they were to fast, their sickness might get worse, but not that much. Not extremely, not badly worse, but it will get worse. Then الفطر له أفضل وهذا مجمع عليه. Then breaking the fast for them is preferred, and that is also by way of consensus. Al-ijma'. There's no difference in that. And that is because of the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He mentions, "Inna Allah yuhibbu an tuqbala rukhasahu kama yuhib an tu'ta azaimuh." Allah loves that His concessions are accepted or taken on board, just like He loves for His obligations to be fulfilled. So the concession here is if you're sick and the fasting will increase your sickness, Allah has permitted you to break your fast. That's a concession. Okay? So it's preferred if a person's sickness will cause them a little more sickness, it will harm them but not too much, to break their fast. But if it will harm them and make the sickness worse, not without a shadow of a doubt, they'll get worse and it's not going to be good for them, then they have to break their fast. They're not allowed to fast. And it mentions, for example, إذا كان يجزم بحصول ضرر بالغ إذا صام حرم عليه الصوم. If it means that if they are to fast, that there's going to be a great harm that afflicts them, then it's haram for them to fast. Because it's not permissible for the Muslim to bring upon themselves harm. It's not allowed for the Muslim to bring upon themselves harm.
That's the third one.
This is all the same person. The same first group, the one who either the sickness will get worse. Yeah, the sickness will get worse. This type was just the one who, we said the person's sickness will get worse or is feared, and whether it will be the sickness will get worse significantly or not. Now we have the second type of people. المريض الذي يخشى أن يتسبب الصيام في بطء برئه. Migraines wouldn't really fall into this category, unless the migraine was going to lead to something significantly that will harm you. Okay? i.e., for example, brain damage or blood clot or something like this. But if you're just having that headache, then it may not be of something that is of a level that you're not allowed to break your fast for. Because also people have to be diagnosed whether they're getting migraines or just a bad headache. Because why we say this, it's known naturally and also scientifically when you fast, the first week you'll get headaches. Because your body's adapting to a change. And of the ways it reacts when you fast, for the first 3 days, you'll get headaches. But that type of headache is not a migraine. And even if it is, it's a natural process. It's not going to get worse by fasting. Anyone who fasts, the first thing they experience when they fast is headache. That's the first thing that a person will experience. As for the severity of migraines, then that would need more of a medical, because it's not by you saying it getting worse. It has to be done by medical consultation. That if you fast, it's going to cause you harm. It's not you making that decision for yourself, no. It has to be known medically. If you fast, that is going to increase the harm upon yourself. Not that person says, no, I believe it's going to harm me more. No. It's by way of medical consultation. For example, one Ramadan, I had surgery the day before Ramadan. And that surgery was in my stomach area. And I asked, can I fast? He said, yeah, no problem. Despite having a surgery near my stomach. So there you consult the doctor. Because then he's always going to know if I fast or not, is this going to be harmful for me? Okay. Is it going to increase the illness? Or, for example, the next type, what we're going to mention now, is it will slow down the process of cure. If someone's sick, the second type of persons now, if you're sick, but fasting will delay the cure, then also you can break your fast. Should a breastfeeding mother fast, and do they need to make up the fast when they're no longer breastfeeding? So, for example, they say the one who is pregnant or breastfeeding, they make them of the category of those who are sick. They put them in the same category. And they say, for example, if you're breastfeeding and you fear for your child, that you won't be able to produce enough milk to feed the child, then you can break your fast. And you have to make it up. But they say if this is a woman's, for example, she's been pregnant, given birth, is breastfeeding, and it's been continuous for a number of years, then she feeds for those days. She doesn't have to make it up because it's too much. She'll feed a poor person for each of those days. And Allah knows best. But when it comes to breaking the fast out of pregnancy or breastfeeding, it's because of fear for the child when it's breastfeeding. As for pregnancy, fear for the life of the mother and the child. No. But if the woman finds it easy to fast while she's pregnant, then she should fast. If it doesn't bring her no harm. Okay? And no danger to the child. Because even if she can fast and she's fine, but it brings danger to the child in the womb, then she shouldn't fast. She should not fast. But that second type of people that we mentioned is the one who, if they are sick, fasting will delay the cure or getting better, will delay them getting better, then they shouldn't fast. They can break their fast. No.
With regards to migraine, if a person gets migraines that are debilitating and
What's that? What's the word you used?
debilitating,
What does that mean?
like it will make them bedbound
Okay.
on end, then would that be to the level that would be permissible to break?
Yeah, I'd assume so, yeah.
I was going to ask the same as well, because I get like,
Yeah, me too.
I've been diagnosed with chronic migraines,
Yeah.
and when I get them, I can't function.
But again, you still need to consult. But you have to consult a Muslim doctor as well. Because the asl of the kuffar is the غير موثوق بهم. They're not trusted in matters to do with a tashri'. So you speak to a Muslim professional doctor and seek advice from a Muslim doctor. some say also there's no condition of the doctor having to be Muslim, as long as they're trusted, i.e. they're trusted in their judgment, they're not known to speak other than speaking correctly. Now, but if the doctor is known, for example, to have enmity towards Islam and the likes, then you wouldn't go to the likes of this doctor. Now, but you to go to a doctor that is trusted, that's known to be trustworthy and well-grounded. It says, for example, فقال الطبيب حاذق يعني ثقة فيما يقوله سواء كان مسلما أو كافرا, whether they are Muslim or kafir. إن تركت الصيام أمكن مداوتك وشفيت من هذا المرض بإذن الله جاز أن يفعل ذلك. For example, if they said that you should not fast for your medication and you'll be cured with that, from that sickness, then no problem to do that. And they mention, even this is by, like, not speculation, but for example, what they consider to be the strongest. They have strong, high grounds of inclination towards this, then this is no problem. But if it's like a person is not sure, then you wouldn't really take that opinion. Okay, so you have to go to a doctor to consult them. If fasting will delay the process of cure, has to be from a grounded doctor, whether they're Muslim or not, as long as they're trustworthy. In that which they say, you have to be thiqa fima yaquluhu. Was mentioned, والأولى أن يعمل المسلم بقول طبيبين إن تيسر له ذلك فإن اختلف رجح قول أحدهما بسؤال طبيب الثالث خروجا من خلاف من يشترط أكثر من طبيب. So he mentions, what's more preferred for the Muslim is to go to 2 doctors if they're able to. And if they are indifferent, then you go to a 3rd doctor, and that's how you would see whose opinion you should follow. Now you go to a 3rd doctor. Also was mentioned, if a Muslim knows someone based on experience that fasting will delay their cure and breaking the fast will make their cure faster, based on someone who has experience with that sickness and the likes, then it's permissible to take their advice. It's permissible to take their advice, as long as that experience is authentic. For example, if a person says by ruqya, I was cured from this, that's by tajriba as-sahiha. Now, whereas if a person says, for example, hug a tree for 3 days, you can say, what? You're majnoon. Hug a tree for 3 days. Upside down as well. They say something like this. This is tajriba muhlika. You'll be more damaged than cured if you did that. Now, the 3rd type of people when it comes to al-marad, المريض الذي يشق عليه الصيام مشقة شديدة. Now, the type of migraines you mentioned might come underneath this. It's the type of sick person who, if they fast, they will bear great difficulty. So if you're bedbound from the type of migraine that you have, then this will fall underneath this. You see? Because that fasting has made it, you're so difficult you can't function. So there's an extreme difficulty that comes from fasting. Then it's permissible for that person to break the fast. And they mentioned al-dalil, قول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لا ضرر ولا ضرار. There's no harm and no reciprocating harm, like no harm and no causing harm. So جاز له الإفطار والله تعالى أعلم. The last type of people when it comes to being sick, المريض الذي يحتاج إلى الفطر لأكل علاج أو شربه وكان يتضرر لو أخره إلى الليل يجوز له أن يفطر من أجل ذلك. If a person has a sickness and they have to take medication, and if taking medication, if you delay it till night time, will cause you harm. Some medications you have to take 3 times a day. So if you don't take it, it's going to make things worse for you. Now, whatever the sickness is, that's when it will apply. So if it's going to cause you harm to delay the medication till night time, then that person should break their fast. It's permissible to break their fast. But of the thing that's mentioned, للمسلم والمريض ألا يتساهل في أمر الفطر. One should not be overly lenient regarding this. Don't be negligent and lenient in the matter of breaking a fast, because this is a serious matter. Okay? Some persons wake up, I got a sore throat, or upset stomach because of what you ate yesterday. You go to the toilet, you're fine. Khalas, it's done. How much people they say I'm sick, they call in sick from work because they're the first 15 minutes of when they woke up. Let your body move, get in order. When you actually know your body, you realize your body doesn't function properly as soon as you wake up. It starts to function after about 20 minutes, half an hour. Then you find you'll know, do I have a stomach ache or not? Is my throat sore or not? Is it just because my mouth was open every time I sleep, so it's extremely dry? Just stuff like this. Some people are calling sick for this in the first half an hour waking up. Allah musta'an. No. Person wakes up, my ear's hurting. Khalas, I'm not fasting until I got earache. The diagnosed earache just because they woke up. As soon as they woke up, my ear was hurting. And the next thing you know, they break their fast. In 20 minutes, nothing. La yatasahal. The person can't be lenient in these matters. They have to take it serious. Because fasting in Ramadan is a gift as well. Don't try to escape fasting. A person shouldn't travel to say, I don't want to fast, so I'm going to travel. La. And you make it up in the days when shaitan is there on your case, making it difficult for you. Now embrace the season with all of the Muslims, everyone going through the same hardship and difficulty for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. Now, so as we mentioned, for the one who's traveling as well, they also allowed to break their fast. As for the traveler, they have a choice. Like if there is no hardship in the travel, they should fast. If it's not going to bring any hardship, they should fast, no problem. And they should try to avoid eating in front of people that are fasting. Try not to eat in front of people that are fasting. It's just min husn al-mu'amala, in good dealings with others. No. Then you have those who they say it's permissible for them or even obligatory for them to break their fast. And such as the one who, for example, if they're not from the previous ones you have mentioned, if they feared getting sick, like a great sickness, or death, if they don't break their fast. If they don't break their fast, would lead them to getting severely sick or lead them to death, then they have to break their fast. Now, Allah mentions, لا تلقوا ولا تلقوا بأيديكم إلى التهلكة. And do not throw yourselves into destruction. I don't be a cause of your own death. Now, for example, if a person feared death out of severe hunger or thirst, because of whatever circumstance they're in, then they have to break their fast. Now,
In regards to what you just said, if they fear death from fasting,
yes.
death.
Yeah, fasting will cause the death, would be a cause for death. Also, for example, if a person needed to break their fast for strength in order to carry out an obligation. For example, there's a fire and the Muslim's a firefighter and he's fasting and it's obligatory to put out the fire and save lives. But whilst he's fasting, he doesn't have the ability, the strength to do it. He's allowed to break his fast to do that. He's allowed to break his fast to be able to help those in that situation. Same way, for example, someone was drowning and you need to help someone drowning. But if you are fasting, you don't have you're too weak. So you have to eat something quickly to give you a boost of strength or energy to help the one who's drowning. Again, a situation where it's either permissible or obligatory to break your fast. Mentions, for example, if that was also the time when jihad was established as well, you'd need to break your fast to be able to fight, then also you break your fast. It mentions, for example, if someone as well fasting made them so weak they're not able to fulfill obligatory actions like salah. They become too weak, so they're not able to pray and stuff, then they have to break their fast also. They also have to break their fast. Some also mentioned, for example, if a person feared harm on their wealth, like if they were in agriculture or with cattle and the likes, and they needed to break the fast to go and look for lost cattle and the likes, then it's also permissible. They say it's permissible to break their fast for that. If they had a reason, they had to go and search for their lost cattle, and they would need to break the fast to have the ability to do so, then they can break the fast. Also, it mentions, for example, in order to repel harm from one's family and children, let's say a person made their money by the day. The type of work a person done was by the day. And for example, the food that their family and children will eat by night is dependent on what they earned by the day. If they feared that they needed to carry on working and they weren't able to unless they broke their fast, then they say they can break their fast in that situation also. And they base all of this, the evidence given to all of these is the hadith la darara wa la dirar. As for those who are not mentioned from these categories, then it's not permissible for them to break their fast. If you're not from those categories mentioned, or you have a justified reason to, you're not allowed to break your fast. As for those who break their fast, what's the ruling of those who break their fast? Now, breaking your fast can be with either eating or drinking, eating or drinking. Everyone's a witness, yeah? That's banned from the car park and the masjid for that reason. And he's doing it now in the church car park. So we're gonna have to deal with this because it's too much. No, Mr. So yeah. The things that break one's fast is eating, drinking, having marital relations or intercourse, or doing something that causes a person to have ejaculations if they've had intercourse, or whatever's in the meaning of food and drink, i.e. taking nutritious injections and the likes. That is the ruling of, the same meaning of eating and drinking. Some say hijama, i.e. breaking of the fast. Hijama, cupping, breaks the fast. As for cupping, then I'm of the opinion it doesn't break the fast. Now, I'm of the opinion it doesn't break the fast. Rather, it's something that is disliked to be done because it may lead to being a cause of a person having to break their fast because they may feel weak and the likes, they're not able to fast. So if a person knows themselves, if you are like that, you'll feel weak and the likes, then you shouldn't carry out hijama. No, whilst you're fasting. They say vomiting intentionally. Vomiting intentionally breaks the fast. And if the woman was to start her cycle or after giving birth, the bleeding after giving birth, then the fast is also broken. The fast is also broken. Things that are allowed for a person whilst they're fasting: one, to swallow your spit, not to gather it I hate having to say this, it makes me sick every time. Gathering your spit to swallow it, that's just horrific anyway to do that. So to do that, you shouldn't do that. But you're allowed to swallow your spit, generally speaking. You don't have to spit every time your mouth waters. You're allowed to taste food if there's a need. If you're a chef, for example, or you're cooking for iftar, you can taste the food but not swallow it. Taste it with your tongue. Al-ightisal, you can wash, shower, bath. Yeah, you can use as the siwak, the miswak. Tatayyub, you can use perfume, no problem. Tabarrud, you can have like a wash to cool down, no problem as well. No.
But you don't have to be a chef to taste the food. Like you could just be a mum tasting food for the family, and but you,
Are you cooking it?
if you're cooking it, yeah.
So you're a chef?
Yeah.
At that moment in time, you're not officially a chef, for example, but you're chefing it up, as they say.
So the one who's not cooking, but they ask you if you would taste it, are they allowed to?
If there's a need. If there's a need. No. Then we have things that are recommended when fasting. One, as-suhoor. Because the Prophet said, "Inna fi suhoori barakah." There's barakah, blessings in suhoor. So that's the meal, having something to eat before the time of Fajr comes in, before you start fasting. And it's also recommended to delay it to as late as possible. Like just before the time comes in, that's the best time to have suhoor. And ta'jeel al-fitr, you should hasten towards breaking your fast. I.e. the time that it's time to break your fast, don't delay it after that. Try and break your fast as early as possible, as long as the time has come in. When the time comes in, then as soon as the time comes in, break your fast. Don't say, oh, I'm not hungry, I'll wait an hour. La. Even if it's with a sip of water, break your fast as soon as possible. Now, when you break your fast, it's recommended, sunnah, to break your fast with dates that are moist. And if not, then dry dates. If you don't have the moist dates, then dry dates. And it's best that you do it in odd numbers. Odd numbers. If a person doesn't find dates, and then have some mouthfuls of water. And if they don't find anything, then they should just make intention that their fast is broken. If you have nothing to eat at all, nothing to drink, then just make intention, I've broken my fast now. The time has come, I've broken my fast by way of intention. Which also shows us, if a person intends to break their fast, the fast is broken. It doesn't mean you have to, your fast is broken solely on eating and drinking. If I say I broke my fast now, I've broken my fast. If I make intention to break my fast without eating and drinking, my fast is broken. It shows the importance of intention. Also, of the things that's recommended whilst fasting is to make dua during the time of breaking fast, and also during the day of Ramadan, just whole of Ramadan, just always make dua. And whilst fasting, especially during the daytime, make dua, as of the times when the person is close to Allah Azza wa Jal. Also, to be abundant with ability, to be charitable. As we know, Kana Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam ajwad al-nas. He was the most generous of people. وَأَجْوَدُ مَا يَكُونُ فِي رَمَضَانِ وَهُوَ الصَّائِمُ. And he was most generous during the month of Ramadan whilst he was fasting. One should also strive to pray in the night, to be of those who are involved in the night prayer, whether it's in the masjid or at home. That one should pray abundantly, pray at night. Also, one should read the Quran frequently. To be frequent in reciting of the Quran. And remember, when it comes to reading Quran, your mouth has to move. You can't read in your head. That's not considered to be reading. That's considered to be looking. But as for reading, you have to move your mouth for it to be counted as reading. Also, if someone tries to abuse you, curse you, fight you, say, Inni sa'im, I'm fasting, remind them that you are fasting. Now, if they're persistent, then, defend yourself. But if you can avoid it. Now, make the defending of oneself be the last resort after giving enough due fair warning that you're fasting. Also, if a person can perform Umrah during the month of Ramadan, is good. And it's equivalent to the reward of Hajj, as mentioned in the Hadith of Prophet ﷺ. Also, things recommended is al-i'tikaf. I'tikaf, staying in the masjid the last 10 nights of Ramadan. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ would practice this, and his wives practiced it after his death. So those who say women make i'tikaf at home, no. There's no i'tikaf at home. I'tikaf is in the masajid. And the wives of the Prophet ﷺ made i'tikaf in the masjid after his death. Now. And also, one should try their best to seek Laylatul Qadr bil qiyam, by way of praying in the night, making dua to Allah Azza wa Jal. Now. And that's going to be any of the last 10 nights. Now.
What's the significance of his wife's practicing itikaf after his death? Is it because they didn't have the responsibility of tending to the family? Or
Allahu alam, to be honest. Allah knows best. Allah knows best. But it could also show the virtue of the action as well, that they also continue that practice. And it could be also that the best place for the women is at home, not the masjid. But especially in times of like now, when we're surrounded by so much kufr and the likes, that it may be encouraged for the woman to go to the masjid because of the circumstance of where we are. Although the reward is higher at home. But if she feels like her iman is going to be increasing if she goes to the masjid, then she should go to the masjid. And the men are not allowed to prevent their wives from going to the masjid. No.
If a woman is in itikaf and she gets her period, does she have to leave? Or does she finish this?
It's probably better to leave. You have some who say she have to leave, because there's those who say the woman's not allowed to be in the masjid while she's on her menses. Although I'm of the opinion she can be, as long as she protects all possibility of protecting the cleanliness of the masjid. Now. But you have those who say that she's not to. No. And she'll be rewarded for her intention and the days that she did do. No. Because if a person has intention to do something and something that was external factor prevented, they still get the reward as if they did it. You see. There are things that I also dislike to be done while one is fasting, and that is al-mubalagha fil madmada wal istinshaq. And when you're making wudu, when you're rinsing your nose and mouth, not to go in extravagance, that you might swallow water, then this is not to be done. Also, tasting food if you don't have a need to. Tasting food without a need, then this is not to be done. Then you have things that are haram upon the one who's fasting. They say bal'un nukhama, swallowing the phlegm. They say it doesn't break your fast, but it's not to be done. Kissing your spouse for the one who doesn't feel safe from breaking their fast. I.e., some people they might be very sensitive to these things. So if a potentially impact their fast, they're to stay away from it whilst they're fasting. As for after fasting hours, then there's no problem. Also, قول الزور, and he mentions وهو فعل كل محرم. Everything that is haram is called قول الزور. As based on the hadith of the Prophet من لم يدع قول الزور والعمل به فإن الله ليس بحاجة إلى أن يدع طعامه وشرابه. Mentions whoever doesn't leave off قول الزور or acting upon that, so it's everything that Allah has prohibited, from false witnessing, from lying and bearing false testimony and supporting this and acting upon this and the likes, that Allah has no need for them to leave off their food and their drink. It won't break your fast, but it might make your fast void of ajr, of reward. Also, is like al-jahl wa huwa as-safaha wa adam al-hilm. Someone that behaves in a lot of ignorance without any tolerance, without any patience. Like to act stupidly, to react to everyone and have no patience, be overly impatient and the likes. This is also something to be avoided whilst fasting. Also, the thing that's haram is al-wisal fi siyam, and that is continuing fast. And you don't break your fast, you continue to the next day. This is not permissible either. No. So that's the main things that I mentioned regarding as-siyam. Inshallah, during the month of Ramadan, around the salawat, I'll mention other things, inshallah, or words of in general encouragement as well. During the month, بإذن الله تعالى, ونسأل الله أن يبلغنا رمضان اللهم آمين. Now, other thing that's also mentioned, things that are mentioned to be of those things that break the fast, but in reality they don't. And we mentioned hijama. And because the hadith in Bukhari mentions, أَكُنْتُمْ تَكْرَهُونَ الْحِجَامَ لِلصَّائِمِ عَلَى أَحَدِ النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم. Did you used to dislike or prohibit hijama for one who's fasting during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? He said, لا. قال لا إلا من أجل الضعف. No, except for from the reason of being weak. A person may be too weak to be able to fast. That's in Sahih Bukhari. So, now there are many things, inshallah, that we remind ourselves of as the days go by. And I think that's sufficient as just a general overview of that which is important for us to know, inshallah. And anything of importance that we come across that is worth mentioning, that we'll mention it inshallah ta'ala in due time. Any questions? فنكتفي بهذا القدر. اللهم صل وسلم على نبينا وحبيب محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. جزاكم الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.